Sean says Celtic took a gamble they would beat Kairat and pick up bargains that we want to play in the Champions League. Dolberg, for example, that's what's cost this season. Rosino says Yang is in the 13th percentile for chances created in the league. That means if you take 10 random Scottish Premiership wingers, Yang is the least effective, the Celtic winger. Mr. Woxie says Rodgers has been vindicated now big time. No statement needed. Jimmy says Celtic need to change from 4-3-3. It isn't working. And Alex says Hearts, Rangers and Celtic all average less than 2 goals a game. Poor stuff. And finally, Luke says Celtic need to spend a hell of a lot next season. Sorry, one final one, Mick. Chick says the demise of a strike force started with letting big Giacomakis go. Even then, Idah after him. No power up front. I mean, that is a good point. Swanee talked about Van Hooijdonk and Cadet and Larsson. Celtic fans would be pretty content with Idah right now.
Celtic fans would take Wayne Biggins right now, I think. Well, I think when you're Swanee saying that was the name that was coming to mind. I was thinking the worst strike force since ... I think was it 92, 93, 94 season with Macari. It would have been Wayne Biggins. I think a very much a kind of
Tony Cascarino, maybe.
That was his season before, I think. I think Frank McAvery and Charlie were both there, but at that time they were like mid-30s by that point. Year before, Tommy Coyne, far better than anything they've got right now. Tommy Coyne, international for Ireland. Cascarino was the year before, yeah. Andy Payton. I think Andy Payton went in the swap deal for Wayne Biggins, I think. I think Andy Payton went out and Biggins came in. Wayne Biggins is probably the name that's go down as one of the worst ever signings. I mean,
the infamous Wayne Biggins.
Yeah, I don't think he scored anything. He played about 10, 12 games, never scored a goal. It only lasted about 4 months. But listen, the ones that have, current on the books, any actual gets the nod at the weekend. He scored 3 goals this season. Hasn't scored since October. 2 of his 3 goals are penalty kicks. Been a disastrous signing, really. Never been fit, never looked fit. It's all right, saying a nice touch, but it's not enough. Thomas Chankara looked okay. Does he look much upgrade on Johnny Kenny? I'm not entirely sure, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not entirely sure what he's bringing to the party. Junior Adamu, back heel against Dundee was nice, but apart from that, hasn't done an awful lot. And then you look at the white guys. The Celtic spent a month trying to get a right winger, and they go and sign Joe Mumvuka, who's played about 70 minutes so far for Celtic and looked way off it, and that's me being kind. So the recruitment, listen, I've spoken about it all season. Celtic's recruitment this year has been absolutely abysmal. Even in January, listen, Martin Neal's, he can't. I think you can look at. I thought tactically, some of the decisions at the weekend at Tannadice I thought were a bit weird and wacky. I must admit. I said it got messy the second half as well with the subs, and I wasn't quite sure what was happening there. But there's no doubt Martin Neal's been sold a pup. Even in January, come back in January, the promises, Celtic board with the promise in January, they'll do their absolute best to fix the mistakes that were done in the summer. And they actually somehow managed to make it worse. And Martin Neal had the kind of embarrassment of having to defend us week in, week out. And he's sitting, and Martin Neal asked the question, everyone he said he sees me in his sleep that night. He basically confirmed they were signing two wingers. And the 2 wingers that, by the way, who looked to really a little bit of pedigree. It's like Gemis and the boy there, the other Slovakian lad who looked decent. And they end up not getting them and getting Mvuka and Adama, who have been pretty disastrous.
Yeah.
So Celtic are in a sorry state. And Neil's having to carry the can and trying to limp this towards the line. But you just think listen, he's capable. He's managed to motivate this team and get them done, get games. I think it's 11 games this season I scored late on to salvage points in. So could have been even worse. Probably should have been worse.
Yeah. But in many ways, Mick, it's a minor miracle that O'Neill has got the Celtic team in a title race.
Yeah, well, it isn't. It's still a team it's got international players and it's got guys who you think they've got the kind of pedigree, but there's an awful lot of very, very ordinary players in that squad as well, who really shouldn't be anywhere near a Celtic jersey, and they're obviously missing a lot of key men who would be playing week in, week out. But the guys that have come in have not been good enough. And it's hard to see. I have to make a case now of how we get over the line here. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, really.
Before we move on from Celtic, I didn't want to drop this on you, Mick, without saying, but like pre-recording, just in case. Well, we've had so many questions about this that I feel I have to ask it. Chris saying, why the hush on Arojo and O'Neill apparently falling out with Big Tam? Shvankara apparently sick, but nobody believes it. Have you heard anything? That seems to be the rumour on social media that they've been bummed out. Or I think Arojo's away back to Bournemouth. He's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, it's that's a concern. I think that you go by the fact he's gone back down to Bournemouth for a start is a major red flag. I mean, it remains to be seen because he wouldn't get back if it was a couple of weeks, a little kind of strain. Then you'd put the feet up during the international break and be all right.
Aye.
But that to me. Listen, Celtic are keeping their cards close to the chest in that one. I don't know about fallouts. No, I've seen the rumours and stuff like that. I'm not entirely convinced about all that kind of stuff. I just think his injury might be worse than maybe it could be a bad one. Which is another blow in a season for all of them. Shankara, listen, I think he'd been ill during the week. I think he trained on Friday. He was pictured training on Friday, but I don't think he was feeling that great. So he stepped back, but we thought the chat is he'll be back for the next week, obviously, for Dundee. But again, he's not really grabbed any opportunities. Shankara, he's looked. I don't know really what he brings to the party.
I almost think he looks like a winger sometimes, Mick. He doesn't look.
I don't know what he's saying. I mean, he's not great in the air. He doesn't look like a penalty box, but listen, he's only scored. I mean, I think he scored twice for Celtic, once a penalty. He scored 3 goals all season. I think 1 in Turkey. Last season, he scored 3 goals for Mönchengladbach. The season before, I think he's not scored double figures since his days at
back in the Czech Republic.
At Prague. Sorry. Likewise, Iñárritu's not scored double figures for 5 years since he was one good season at one of his good seasons at Leicester. He scored about 8 goals in 3 years. Iñárritu. Adamu has scored about less than half a dozen in the last 2 years. Celtic don't have any goal scorers.
No.
Don't create an awful lot. The wide players, I think, are too flaky as well. And if you're a striker at Celtic, you don't really know what you're going to get because they don't really know what they're going to get either. So it is difficult. It is difficult for strikers, but they need to be offering a bit more than they are right now because they're not. Don't even look like scoring half of them.